Hey everybody, so this one is all about just getting on the bike. It's one of my favorite metaphors. It's something I say to my friends whenever we're talking about creating content, when we're talking about getting your voice out there to the world. It could be sports related, it could be business related, it could be relationships. You need to be riding the bike is the key. Whatever it is you want to do, don't talk about it, don't think about it, don't wonder about it, don't strategize about it, don't read about it. Do it. Ride the bike. Because you're going to fail, and you're going to wobble on the handlebars, and you're going to not really know exactly how to react in certain situations until you've seen it once, twice, 3 times, 10 times. And that is the practice that gets you to a place where you know you can truly be confident in your ability to do whatever it is you want to do. That's the idea. So ride the bike. Everyone would love to have a YouTube video that blows up. If you have any interest in modern media and content creation and being present in the world, having a voice in the world, making money doing something you're really interested in or talking about what you're interested in, having that be part of your profitability in life, yeah, most people would want it. So if that was easy, we would all do it the way it's supposed to be done. If that was making one really awesome video, well then every single brand on the planet would figure out how to throw enough money at making a good video with all the extremely talented people out there doing it, and you would just science the shit out of that, create the best video in the world, well shot, super attractive people and products and locations, and you would just have the audience for the exchange of creating a piece of content that naturally draws an audience. That's advertising. You got to throw money at the actual distribution to even have a hope that your message is going to connect with people the way I was just describing. So back to reality. That being that you and I, if you're watching this video, you're one of my tribe. That's all there is to it. We're in the same boat. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to create our content at scale. And this is me sharing my journey as I go through this, day by day, week by week, video by video even, and sharing my experience, whether it's through recaps or the actual content that I'm producing while I'm producing it. I want to share the experience so that when people can look back 2 years from now, 3 years from now, and I have, let's say I'm making $7,000 to $10,000 a month in the future by just doing this thing that I love to do, which is messaging and creating and sharing ideas and seeing how people respond to it, and content creation. I have very interesting friends who have amazing knowledge in their heads. I'm a little scatterbrained, kind of all over the place. I just say whatever's on my mind. I have people in my life who I respect so much. When I'm speaking to them, I am connecting around a subject that they are just masterful in. They know every element of it, and they could answer any question in a live stream that anyone could give to them. But they also do not have a voice. There's almost a duality to your knowledge versus your ability to communicate that knowledge, being kind of almost counterintuitive to one another, being that if you know a lot, you're almost more reluctant to share it, or just knowing a lot and not sharing it doesn't really make the equation that's required to actually gain some traction and become known for it, right? I know it's kind of obvious, but somehow that escapes us all the time. Thinking about that quality piece of content or that quality idea that you have and imagining how people might respond to it and feeling really good about its potential is a complete waste of time. So then we're not talking about making one video. We're talking about making a bunch of videos and getting better and better at it and putting it out there. That's right. Okay, so that means that I need to set up my space, my workspace, to be conducive to that. Have a space where I can just post up at any moment when I have an idea inside my car or inside the office of my home or part of my bedroom or your living room or whatever. Have an environment that's set up to be able to do that anytime. And if you're really good at speaking to camera, you can also just post that up on the boardwalk, on the street, and just talk to camera and give it all you've got to just have something interesting for people to listen to. This is the part that is always missing though. You know you're going to be on multiple platforms. I can't imagine putting this energy into creating content, having images, having videos, having shorts, using different tools to create shorter versions with captions that can catch people's attention out of their social media channels, and then drive that content back to your main channel, which is what I'm doing. I can't imagine just doing one channel. I am using a tool called Metricool, and I'm very fond of how it works. I love the way you can just look at the schedule, click on the schedule, load it into any of your connected channels. I know you've used other tools like Hootsuite and maybe Sprout Social, not so much on the social listening side, but just the scheduling side. You've used other scheduling tools that have sort of, made it possible to schedule, but Metricool just makes it so visually obvious what it is that you're doing. Metricool just point at the thing you want and get it. Point at the thing you want and it puts it there in a way that no other scheduling tool has ever done for me. So I really look at that and I just say that's going to be essentially my golden goose, if you will, that lays the golden eggs. Is the one thing I've never been able to do is confidently and organizationally get my stuff lined out 2 weeks ahead. And none of my content is super topical. That's something I want to work on and have more of and post more regularly on the day that it's topical or the week that it's topical. But for the ongoing content, the stuff I know I want to convey, the videos that I'm making multiple versions of and trying different ways of saying the same thing, consistently having that same message across all my media platforms, my media schedule for weeks on end, I want to have that loaded. I want to get into week 3 of the month and just go, I don't even know if there's any room in here. This is going to be over posting at this point. Well, I think that's a beautiful thing, is to have to choose. When you start paring down how much content you're putting out, I think that's when you're starting to get to it. When you watch videos of really amazing content team, when you have a persona online of someone who is obviously gaining influence in the social sphere, whether it's something you're interested in, you search for it specifically, or you came across their content as a result of watching other content, one way or another, that person just seems to magically lift to a whole new level of fame and awareness. They're gaining an audience, and they're smart, and they're working their asses off, and they're getting, speaking engagements, and they're writing books, and there's all sorts of things that contribute. They've got a blog they've written for 12 years. Don't get me wrong. Absolutely, there's multiple layers to how people become instantly famous. We all know that's a misnomer. But they're gaining traction, because there are people out there who have written very good books who don't have blown up YouTube social media channels. There are people out there who have done amazing things in the world, and they don't have an audience that they regularly speak to unless they become part of another engagement, a conference or a presentation or a movie or a documentary about them, right? So to get traction on social media, what do you really need? All you need to do paid advertising. Maybe. All right, I'm listening. I'm interested in that as a component of what you do. I think you should always consider that. Is there a way to embrace advertising to reach your audience where you never could without paid advertising? I don't doubt it. You're going to reach a completely different group of people. You can target them the whole bit. That's great. But that's obviously, as we all know, not the only thing that's going to take, because you're not really necessarily reaching your organic, diehard fans who are connecting with your message by doing that. So those people who you watch in interviews who share a little bit more, just even sneaking out little details about what they're actually doing with their content marketing teams, or what they did themselves for a number of years, the volume of content is the key. That's what sneaks out. If you're listening to a Gary Vee or an Alex Hormozy, or you're listening to even some people not quite at that level, but they're sharing how they're building quickly. Well, you're blowing up on YouTube. What happened? They will sneak out little details about hundreds of pieces of content a day. which to you and me sounds insane, because what sort of normal person would even think about doing that? You're going to inundate your audience with messaging on multiple platforms. Every platform's a little different in terms of how you're reaching your audience. What are my friends going to think of me when I post 100 posts a day? They're going to see me in their feed all day long. Is that going to essentially blacklist my account so that I'm not actually, shadow banned, something like that on Instagram because I'm posting too much? I think all those little details is something that I'm not going to care about for a while and just post like crazy and create content like I'm doing right now in my car, where for a set duration, I plan to, in the next 6 months, just keep cranking that out all the time. Maybe even talking about the same sort of thing, maybe even coming up with subsets of the subjects that I like to talk about and testing which ones work well. That's something that I'm going to stick with consistently, and I'm not at 100 pieces of content. I feel kind of obnoxious posting 6 pieces of content per day on some of the platforms. But the type of content you're putting on what platforms is really the key. You're not going to post 20 YouTube videos a day. That's not realistic. First of all, your quality's not going to be there. Second, YouTube probably won't even feed that many per day to an audience unless you are just outstandingly good and popular already. But one every couple days sounds reasonable to me. Split up with a bunch of shorts about that video driving you back to the main content and my profile sounds pretty reasonable. I want to test that. And that leads us into this other aspect of it, which is what platforms need what type of content at scale. What do you use them for? Each one should almost be like a little tool in your toolbox, but it's a little different. You got a crescent wrench, you've got a Phillips screwdriver, a regular screwdriver, right? Every one of these does a different thing. And in doing a different thing, that means that when you try to use one tool, the way you use that tool in a way that's different than what it's intended for, it's not going to work. Every one of these platforms is a little bit different, or at least it should be different in the way that you use it. Yeah? Because, what are we doing here? What's going on? Yeah. I bet I'm in a dead end. Usually when there's a weird situation, I give it time now because I might be the asshole. just get all kind of defensive and at least protective of your idea or your spot you are in life, and then like take another look and say, am I the asshole? Because I kind of feel like maybe it's possible. Oh, yep, I'm the asshole. I wasn't in that case, however. I was completely justified and warranted, and that person needed to move their vehicle. That's how it is. So, yeah, every platform's a little different. So let's take, how do I use each of these platforms right now? Or how do I intend to? I'm not alluding to the false reality that I've got a huge following. I've had a few videos, I've got a couple 10,000, 20,000 views on them. I've experienced the sense of having content online that I know people are actually seeing and responding to, which is fun because then it's actually social media. Instead of just show and tell and posting up your poster on the side of the wall, you never know who sees it, you actually get a response from people. It's pretty fun. Even with some of the negativity, I think it's super exciting. It makes it worth it to see some kind of a response from your audience. Facebook is an anomaly to me. I think that's a one-to-one. I feel like that, for me personally, is really about just post it. A bunch of your friends that you probably went to high school with are going to see it, and maybe a few people who are in groups. There's opportunities to build up those kinds of networks on there. I'm not crazy about it. Instagram used to be a blast, and most of us who used to have accounts that went skyrocketing when we posted stuff, and it actually was an interesting way to share content, who aren't doing paid advertisements, that organic reach on Instagram feels like it has just hit the rock bottom, and you should just post on there because it's a good spot to have a record of what you're doing. I would say maybe not a place to hope to see a lot of traction and growth. LinkedIn, this one's very interesting in my view. I happen to have the kind of content that isn't just comedy or obscure interviews with people who are maybe more on an entertainment spectrum, but rather stuff that would be valuable to people in the business world looking ahead to the future of how you communicate online. Knowing that that's a big part of the content that I'm going to start putting out, I think it makes a lot of sense to include messaging, pictures, written posts, right? Just pure writing with a few hashtags, maybe even a few blog posts on LinkedIn, some video content that's relevant to the business audience. I don't think that it has to be about how to set up an LLC in order to be legitimate content on LinkedIn, but I do think the one where, like, you know, me speculating on life and what it means, for the most part, the stuff that really resonates on LinkedIn is relevant to an industry, relevant to professional improvement, or like team and business building. So that's fine. Leverage that. If you have any content or can put your content in a context that speaks to those things and speaks to the LinkedIn audience, I highly recommend it. Here's why. Because you have that concentrated mindset, you have that purpose behind the content that people are seeing. They're more receptive to that type of content on LinkedIn than they will be on any other platform. So it's sort of a double-edged sword, right? And when you leverage that and you're speaking to people about how to improve their lives, because all of us need to make money. I don't know a single person who doesn't collect some kind of check, some kind of residual at the end of a month and put that in their bank account and actually have it amount to something that they can use to improve their lives. Maybe just, right? So we're all making money. So there has to be something about the kind of topic that you cover that could be wrapped in a bow and put up on LinkedIn and be interesting. That's the best place to test. It's one of the best places to test content to see whether or not it resonates with people, because you'll get high degrees of engagement. LinkedIn is very good at telling you who looks at your profile, so you can make your profile a billboard of all the things that people might want to connect with you around, whether you have an entertainment blog or if you've got videos you want them to watch, if you've got a channel you want to drive them over to. You can do that within your profile and make it crystal clear to people how to engage with you more. They might very well want to. I get a lot of DMs on LinkedIn, and they're fun because it could be that it's a more business-oriented setting, but the engagement is really intentful. It's really around like leveraging these conversations to potentially work together or partner up on something really interesting. So that's fun. I think that's way better than somebody who's just like, oh, I love your picture of your whatever flowers in your backyard. Whatever your content type is. I love your video where you're speculating on how people might want to be using these tools to improve their professional lives in the future and you need to be online. That actually might come up on LinkedIn. If you crank out enough posts on LinkedIn, I've never felt like LinkedIn punished me for posting too much. Where other platforms, I think a lot about, well, I think there's going to be a threshold here where if I post too much, the algorithm is going to punish me by reducing how much people see my stuff. Whereas on LinkedIn, instead of feeling that, I feel like I can try throwing 20 different darts at the board all around my primary subject matter, which in this case is, you know, online professional presence, so that you're connecting with people and communicating and using modern tools to improve how you actually get your message out to an audience. Well, there's probably 50 things we could come up with right now on the back of a napkin that will be relevant to that topic as subtopics. So you create all those and you do enough of them over a few weeks and you start to see what people are actually interested in. You're testing your audience and saying, hey, you know, yeah, it's not the exact thing that I might have stood up today and said, this is what I'm going to talk about. Here's my big presentation. But rather, all right, I can do a lot of these things. These are relevant in a lot of different ways to what kind of content I might be creating. If you have any kind of topic where you think that could be, you could set up a cadence on LinkedIn and really start to explore that, it could pay real dividends, because you could drill into information that people want to know about, that they're kind of thirsty for, and provide it to that audience. If there's some subtopic or sub-niche that you really want to explore, that's a great place to test it, is on LinkedIn. TikTok, absurd reach. Just, let's be honest, you can be kind of a dipshit and post up on LinkedIn regularly, and people will watch it. I can post a video after not having posted for 3 months on TikTok with like 150 followers, and it gets 1,500 views. And that post for me might say, link in bio. The only link in my bio leads you back to my YouTube page, and that's where I want to be driving traffic. So TikTok gets the traffic. I use the traffic and leverage it to put a short clip of my video that people can watch the rest of it on YouTube. And on YouTube, when they go to my bio, that's the only channel I'm driving them to. That leads us to that final destination for me, which is YouTube itself. Here's why it's worth using all your skills, all your energy as your initial piece of content, using it to create a YouTube video as best you can, and make as many as you can crank out per week as possible. Because the act of recording like this, the act of preparing and thinking about how you want to present your information, speaking that information regularly into camera, is an excellent focusing process. It's an excellent tool, an excellent exercise to create content, most of it which is usable, and curate what you say into a comprehensive and meaningful video that people might actually want to watch, and then do it again tomorrow. I know it sounds a little crazy for people who haven't created much content at all, or have done a really sort of a more paced form of content creation. Feel, yeah, I'm good at it. I can talk to a camera, I don't care. But I don't make a video 4 times a week. Okay, it's cool. Well, think about it. The more you practice and the more you ride the bike, the better you're going to get. This is also a really exciting element. Why YouTube is great and why you need to use it. Because it's a search engine, so what you're most familiar with on other platforms where you post something, hope and pray and speak to the wind, and do a little dance and hope it rains. On YouTube, you can have a video that's been on there for 2 years and 15 people have watched it, and either something happens or something on your channel engages it, and it suddenly blows up. And in your world, that might be like mine, blowing up. You might get 15, 20,000 views on a video in a short period of time. That's still great. The value you are putting into creating good content on YouTube stays with you like an investment. The investment of your time on YouTube is worthwhile because the dividends it pays is a residual you're going to keep realizing for years to come. I've seen videos on YouTube that are 8, 10 years old and still relevant to the topic that you're speaking about, that particular content creator felt was important 8 to 10 years ago. I've heard of people having videos up for years and years and thinking it was a complete lost cause, but somehow it ended up contributing to the overall success of their channel in a big way. So that's where you start. Create as many good quality, within reason. Don't take 6 days to make each video. It's insane. Start making a bunch of small, batch videos that you feel comfortable speaking about a particular topic. Just crank it out, record it, get it done, and then the end result is something that you can actually turn into a video. You can edit it and create a cohesive, single piece of content, and then from that content, break it out into some of the additional tools that I'll be sharing with you on this channel. The process of doing it is to start with the big piece. Start with that big piece. Start with the big message of a single idea that you can then turn into a bunch of short videos from that primary content, and actually start getting some volume out there. And you're hearing it in your mind, in your ears, your perception, that you've done the video, you've already said it. Right now, I'm gonna go edit a whole bunch of content for this video after I'm done recording. I've already said all these things. Some of the things I said in this video, I said twice, 3 times. Your audience has only heard it once. However, they might not have heard it at all. That's the part that is a big mind shift for a lot of people when you think about production and creating content on a regular basis. How many people do you watch where the formulaic presentation of their information is consistent year over year? Not just day over day, video over video, year over year. Look at Gary Vee's stuff. Look at some of the statements he makes today. Look at when you see a video pop up from Gary Vee. What is it always about? Hustle like crazy, create a whole bunch of content on every single platform, and go nuts with it. But the way he presents it is the same way. His vocabulary is the same. The way he talks to people, his attitude, his mannerisms, they're all consistent. He doesn't come up with something new every day, with some new flashy product that changes everything. He has a mantra that he shares with his audience. And his audience, it really resonates with them. It has with me over the years. There's also some great comedy out there about his character, because he's outlandish. He's a big personality. So you gotta love when people point that out too. But you think you've already said what needs to be said, and you're hoping somebody heard it. What you need to do is say it about 10,000 times in the form of content and publication, so that people are actually hearing you. I think that's the gap. That's the gap I plan to close. I don't think I'm everybody's cup of tea. I don't think people are necessarily even going to listen to this video, being one of my first ones on the channel I'm building now. I don't think people are going to put this on repeat, put it in their save lists necessarily. But that focusing on that one aspect of it that truly differentiates between people who try to make some content and see if people like it versus creating the best content you can at speed, riding the bike every day, and trying to get your message refined by creating it again and again, not just thinking about it, not just reading about it, not watching other YouTube videos about it, but doing it yourself and then putting it out there at scale. I think that is the big differentiator. I don't know any successful piece of media or content that's been well received that there was one copy of it and somebody just passed it around. I know that's a little extreme, because obviously you can put your video on YouTube and technically the entire world can go to a URL and actually see your video, but that's not how it works, and you know it. What I'm talking about is when you post that and you put any piece of content into social media and you're hoping that it connects with people, the number of people who are actually going to see it, the number of people who are actually going to potentially want to share it or watch it on repeat or save it, that has a lot to do with volume. I grew up in an era where broadcast television was all about getting as many eyeballs on that single play as possible. When there was an episode of a show that was broadcast at a certain time, you either showed up or when it was done, it was done. But that is not the way the world works anymore. Now, everything is on demand. which for Gen Xers is a massive shift that I don't know if we ever really got completely comfortable with or really acknowledged just what a difference that is. We still think of YouTube as a broadcast channel. I'm going to create something, I'm going to post it, and on that day, we'll see how many people watch it. And then a few months later, I'll try again. You're never going to get anywhere with that. That's basically been my game plan to today. But changing that up to put that message on repeat, both in the form of distribution and repetitive distribution of that one piece of content you created and the divided out, segmented portions of it that you create shorts and reels from, stories. And then also repeating the same type of message in a new performance of that content or presentation of that content again and again, and saying it the same thing in as many different ways as you can and improving upon it a little bit each time. I think that's going to be the way to go. So anyway, that's my big speech for today. I hope that it has some kind of meaning and inspiration for other people trying to do this. I do not think you need to be perfect. I don't think you have to be exceptionally exceptional good looks or extremely intelligent or extremely talented or extremely experienced or knowledgeable in your field to the extent that you're the only one who should be speaking about it. Just lose all that mindset and just turn the cameras on and share your message and connect with your audience. That's going to be one of the only ways to stand out. The platforms that we are creating for today, by being present, being on camera, learning technologies, whether they are more of the fundamental kind of organic digital tools, which sounds really funny, but Photoshop or video editing suites or drawing programs, 3D creation programs, or if it's the AI counterparts that are rising quickly and are extremely interesting to work with as well. See what kind of ideas they generate and how to cooperate with AI to create content that's accentuated with that new technology. That will be a skill that will continuously be more and more important as we go along, because the platforms we know today are either going to evolve into or be taken over by more content platforms. So what's your show? If you think about your show right now on a platform that unveils itself 5 years from now, it really starts to rise up. It's connected to headsets, VR headsets, or it's connected to a certain kind of live presence in your living room that comes with the latest TVs. And everybody has it now, and everybody is using it, and you need to blow up on there too, or you want to. You just want to. Take it out of the need factor for just a minute. If you want to be present, if you want to have a voice, if you don't want someone else telling your story, or you want them telling their story, but you want to tell yours alongside it, there's only one way to get started. And that is to just start putting in the reps. Start riding the bicycle. And you got to do it like no one's looking at first. And just really be honest with yourself and connect with the content, the message. Really hone in the message that you want to speak about, the stuff that makes you excited, the stuff you would do even if no one was ever going to pay you for it because it's interesting to you. You're starting to find that winning combination of your message and your methodology and your channels, and you're starting to actually head in a direction where you're gaining the skill set to be present digitally. Being present digitally is not going to ever become less important at this point. Something to leverage now, something to lean into in the future, and be ready for. I wish you great success. Like, subscribe. We'll see you in the next video. You've got, a socket wrench. You've got a you've got a chisel, you've got a, I'm in an intersection here, sorry. You got a chisel, you got a level, or it's not gonna work very well. You can use a level as a hammer, not a good idea. You can use a hammer as a level, also not a good idea. Point being, what you're really looking at here is